And then I think Claudia, I don't know if she could find it, but she said that the estimate that we got on, looking at the roads and the grading, the estimates we got on road grading was about $42,000. The schedule that we established last year, and we had 70 something in the budget, right? So that means that right off the top, we're operating with $30,000 to do all of our gravel road work. Right. And then the problem we ran into last year, I mean, other than the grading, right? The grading's taken care of. But the problem we ran into last year was a weather situation. So it really strikes me as a sensible thing to do is if we just around it, say we had $30,000 to do, you know, culvert repairs and anything else that comes up on improving ditches and stuff on the gravel roads, is take another 10 off that and save that until we get closer to the end of the year. So if, when you're looking at a road job, if there's something that could be put off for a while, you know, if we want to deal with this, if it's a ditch situation or something like that, we want to clean out a ditch, is really look at picking those up in September rather than spending the money now, because we could run into another weather situation that just eats up, like you said, $23,000, $15,000 to $20,000 worth of our budget is gone in 2 days.
The other thing was that schedule I give you.
Yeah.
If we do that, that saves him going out and doing it. That saves us about $3,000 a year.
Right.
Just by us going out, and we should be the ones going out and looking at the road, not him going out.
Well, and that was it. And again, because this is a work session, we don't put motions forward, we don't spend money, but this is just, we're trying to figure out what we want to start working on, so coming up. But it's the road schedules you worked out, I think that looks fine. I drove over a couple of them, and I'm assuming, Lenny, that when you noticed that culvert problem that you were talking about is because you were checking roads? Or did somebody call you?
No.
You were checking the road, okay. Yeah, and the way that was dealt with is that you call Lawrence, and then you ended up talking to both of us.
Yeah.
Now, the way I look at something like that is when you view that situation, it's, do we need to deal with this right now? You know, if we have water coursing across the road and eroding the road down through the crown of the road or in the travel lane of the road, it's a question of whether or not we need to fix the culvert or whether or not it's a ditch problem.
I didn't go up and look at it. You said
didn't?
that was about half full of
Yeah,
sand
yeah,
and
yeah.
gravel.
I mean, the sump at the beginning of it there is none.
Right.
It's just all come down off Green Mountain there, you know, and it just couldn't handle it. Going.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
And
fine
then it started
line.
going
Yeah.
across Hobbs Road, and then it started going down
Right.
towards Scott.
I mean, I look at this question as the fine line between postponing work and then putting work off and then have a rainstorm that comes in and because you didn't go out and fix a small problem, you
I
got
wanted Lawrence to look at
Yeah.
it before we get to northeast of Sunday.
That's why they call it maintenance,
Yeah,
you know?
right,
So if we do it before it gets bad,
Right.
then we save the road.
right. And I thought another thing I'd like to look at is that when we look at the manifest and stuff like that, you know, if we've had is to, you know, at least twice a month, just to really review the road budget, see how much money we've spent, how much money we've got left.
Yeah, we gotta keep a handle on that.
Right.
We're too loose with the policy we have. We gotta keep a tighter grip on it, because we're sending them out to do things that could be put off for a while.
Right,
And we need to go out ourselves a
Right.
lot
yeah,
to make sure that
right, yeah.
it's either warranted, or can we wait a couple of weeks, can we wait a month?
Right, yeah,
Something like
or can
that.
we wait till September or something like that,
Right.
if that's what if the decision, because as I said, it's not a question of making a decision, we're putting stuff on the table, think about it, next week we'll try to, you know, come to a conclusion that we all agree with. But tonight, it's just about putting stuff on the table. So in that sense, I think we're all thinking that we wanna try to do the same thing with the road budget.
And probably this year you won't be grading the roads in December either.
Well, hopefully not, but, you know, we may be grading them in March.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah.
You know, I mean, Old Pound Road, and I gotta admit, when it comes to my road, I'm the last one to call. You know, there's been points when I'm glad that somebody else calls, because I just feel wrong saying, hey, you know, Old Pound Road needs work. If a neighbor comes, I know it does, but I wait for a neighbor to say it, you know?
Well, your road it's rough when you first start on.
Yeah,
Up
yeah.
up past
Up to my
Bob.
place.
Once you get by Bob,
Yeah.
and then it ain't too bad,
Yeah,
the rest of it.
yeah, it's always
That-
been a good road up there. So, yeah, as far as that road stuff goes, I think just pay attention to the budget, and don't And what do you think, keep 12,000, 10, I mean, just when
Well, I don't know if we need to set a figure, but I just think we need to keep a better handle on
Right,
what we're spending.
right.
And that way there, we'll have money enough left when we get to
Yeah.
the end of the year.
So suppose I know in the past, we've had a little job, send him out, it's a 4-hour job. Right, he comes back, so if we had 3 4-hour jobs, or say 2 4-hour jobs, it's a whole day's work, so we're only paying the time it takes to get from the garage to town once. So
Right.
unless it's an emergency situation, the plan is just to kind of let work build up until there's like a full day's work anyways, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
makes
okay.
sense,
Right.
I got a list here of things to get done in 2016.
Okay.
We need to do the RFP for the Stevens Road, okay? We can't finalize it until we get a stamped plan from Bacon,
Yeah,
okay? But we can work on it and get it as close as we can. And
Right.
when he gives us a plan, then, in fact, he said he would be willing to work with us and help us write up the RFP.
okay, excellent.
So we need to do that. And then we got an RFP for the Grant Road,
Right.
which we haven't even talked about the Grant Road yet.
Yeah.
I think we need to get an engineer out
Mm-hmm.
to check our abutments. If they're no good, then we can just drop that
Mm-hmm.
and go on from there.
Okay.
I can call that SW Cole if you want, and
Well, as far, like, again, that's a decision thing. We can bring that up on Tuesday. You know,
Okay.
I mean, Lawrence, I mean, this is a public meeting in the sense that the public is free to watch, but it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right.
But under Granite Road, it's a question of looking into an engineer to study the abutments.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, if our button's no good, then
yeah.
we can forget it.
Yeah.
The other thing is crack sealing and make a list of the roads.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Townhouse Road, I noticed there's some cracks in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's new,
Yeah.
not from
Yeah.
what we done last year, but
Right.
from new for
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So we need to make a list of the roads that we're going to crack seal. Okay.
Yeah.
And road reconstruction, culverts on granite. I'm still working on the application for the permits
Right.
to do those.
Yeah.
We probably won't get onto them until June, July,
Yeah.
because we got to do the get the roads graded, get them
Yeah.
calcium on and that. So we probably won't get into that until probably the first part of July.
Okay, so as an earmark, just because one of the things I'd like to do is kind of run a calendar on ourselves, so that if we set a date that we'd like to have something done, we can check ourselves, and I can print out a calendar that gives us 2 weeks, 4 weeks warning, 2 weeks warning, you said you'd have it done by the 15th of July.
Right.
So the 1st of July, I'll get a little note that says, have you done, how you doing?
Okay. And the next one was file plans to the DES for the culvert application,
Right.
which I couldn't download his application off of my computer, but I might be able to go into the site and get it. If not, I'll call him and have him
Okay.
mail me one. I couldn't download it. I couldn't print it, I should
Yeah,
say.
and as far as, and this is a little off topic, I'll just bring this one thing up. When you have something mailed, always have it mailed to the office. I know it costs us another day or so before it gets from the office to you, but do not get in the habit of having stuff sent to your house.
Well, no, this was just an application
Yeah,
that I had to fill out
right,
with some pictures so that I could send it back to him so he could determine what we needed to permit
right.
to put them culverts in.
Yeah,
We
see,
didn't.
and I look at it as part of what the office staff is about is if you're having a problem downloading the applications after your office if you know what the address is and what you're looking for, let Claudia know and have her
Well,
download it.
I can email it to the office and maybe she can download it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
But Lawrence, we really need to set this difference between your home office and here, because if anything ever comes up that people get upset about and they want this record and that record, if you've been doing business from home, your home becomes part of the lawsuit or whatever it might be. It's just, you need to be careful of that stuff.
Okay. The next thing was
Plus, we gotta keep a file on everything.
Right, yeah, I'll get
School Street, repair the railing on the culvert just down here.
Okay,
That we were supposed to done last year and just
Well-
never got to it. I'm gonna give you a copy of this, so you'll have it.
Yeah.
Transfer station, pave the area where we got that water problem behind the thing.
and redish it.
And then the next one is ditch the area for the water
Now,
problem.
at the end of that thing, at the end of the parking lot, there's actually a drain down there, isn't there? Or is
There's
that
a culvert, yeah, this culvert goes across there, but, and that culvert is probably 18 inches lower than that ditch is
Right.
behind there. So if we ditch that, that will take care of that
Yeah.
water. And if we've gotta pave that,
slope it into the ditch?
so it slopes out to the.
Right, so as far as that goes, what we really need there is again, this is the thing, Tuesday, sit back there and get an estimate, maybe go up to Lakes Region Paving and see what an estimate would be.
Right.
I mean, in the sense that he's close, but, you know, we can talk about who to do it with later on, but.
Okay, and then you mentioned that we gotta work on the runouts on Molly Phillips Hill,
Right,
which,
and that, in my opinion, we really need to get a handle on what the property owners are gonna want from the town in that situation, because that's gonna cut into our road budget.
right.
So we really need to jump on that as soon as possible, and in one
But we,
sense,
like I said, we won't get onto them until last part of June.
Right.
Because we need to get the, roads up.
Yeah.
And get them calcium on.
yeah, but the sooner we have an idea on what it's gonna cost us, the better. I mean, we could get an estimate, if we talk to the property owners, right, the people that own the land that those things are on, and sit back there and say, this one they want fixed, this one, and then come to terms on that, right, it'd give us an idea on how much it's gonna cost us, whether, because, we had an estimate, Lawrence, at one time, of $20-something thousand to fix every single one of them. I don't think that's the case anymore, that we have to, every one of them is on the table, but someplace in there between.
Well, I think the estimate was high, but
Yeah,
we haven't done them yet, so.
right,
The other thing is update the personnel policy. It's just to review it, see if it's up to date,
oh, it's worth doing, yeah.
On the fire department, police department, transfer station, and administrative office.
Right. As far as the personnel policy, when you're talking about a place with a department head, I would request that the fire chief and the police chief update it. We're gonna look at it, but it ends up being their responsibility to update it.
Right.
Right, so.
But I just say we should look at it.
Get in the process of that going, yeah, okay, yeah, good.
And then the other thing is we need to do a capital improvement plan. This would help the budget committee, okay?
Yeah,
And it would also help us so that we knew what we had to appropriate for money for each year. And we can take this out either 5 years or take it out 10 years.
right,
Most towns take it out 5 years. I
Mhm.
think for us, we should take it out 10 years because we don't have the money that most towns have.
right.
So I think we should take it out 10
Well,
years.
I just, in the sense of terminology, when I think of a capital improvements plan, it's something that's set up by the planning board, and essentially you have that, and it's the expectations of how much the town needs to spend, and the sort of reference between the current cost of infrastructure, creation and maintenance, and the load it gets from the community. That's capital improvements plan. I think what you're talking about more is it's an infrastructure improvement plan.
Well, I don't think the planning board can determine, like, say this roof, this building here needs a
Right.
new roof. The planning board can't.
No, and that's what I'm thinking, it's, when you use the term capital improvement plan in municipal government, generally they're speaking about something that's the responsibility of the planning board. I think really what you're talking about is an infrastructure,
Right.
maintenance and improvement plan.
So I'm saying
Yeah.
town old buildings.
Capital
So
expenses.
we got, I call it the old town hall, which is actually the library. Now, you have a lot of that information.
Mhm.
So if you can bring that forward, and we can look at that and then
Right.
see if we need to add to it.
Yeah,
And also see what we can get done through a grant
Mhm.
on that. And also, we need to get everything ready for the grant when that grant comes out.
Right.
So that we're in first place.
yeah,
I call it police office building, the modular
Right.
out here, we should look at that, see
Yeah.
what, I mean, I don't have any idea if that needs to be shingled.
yeah,
Or what it
the
needs.
roof's getting old, let's put it that
Right.
way, yeah.
It's up off the ground, so probably the sills are good in it
Yeah.
unless it had a lot of moisture in the
Right.
summertime.
Yeah.
Rotted out
Yeah.
underneath. I don't know, I I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I do know, as far as I know, the only leak problem we've ever had in there was an ice dam we had last year. And then that got dealt with, but it was, you know, I was up shoveling that roof 2 years ago, and the sun's just been baking that roof for 20 years, it's done, you know, so.
So that's, you know, that's something that we can look at.
Yeah.
We can determine if that needs to be
Yeah.
shingled. We don't need a
No.
professional to come in and tell us if that needs to be shingled.
Right.
We can determine if that
Yeah.
needs to be shingled.
Right.
And you know, look at the floors, the insulation, the heating system.
Right.
You know, just go through the building and see what we think it's going to need in say in the next 10 years.
All right, so one thing we could give ourselves is establish a schedule that by such and such a date, we will have looked at the library, we will have looked at this
Right.
building, we will have looked at the fire stations, any town-owned building, we will have looked at by the end of July, say. Right? I mean, just to pick a date. And that's the kind of thing, this is like, you know, if two of us wanted to do it, it's just to add a meeting that week, we simply
Right.
make it a meeting, you know, it's a
Well, the
work
three of
session.
us can.
Yeah, but I mean, on a Tuesday night, we sit back there and say, okay, either two or three of us are gonna go look at the modular.
Right.
You know, crawl over the roof, crawl under the building, do that kind of stuff.
The next one would be actually this building, municipal office building.
Yeah,
Got a new heating system.
yeah.
The only thing here is, you mentioned the roof. I don't know what the roof
Well,
looks like.
yeah,
Maybe the roof is fine,
No,
but
the last,
We-
I think it was evaluated, about 7 years ago, and it was in pretty good shape then. And, we haven't had any problems, and I do know that when they were, you know, putting in this stuff, they tore a lot of the ceiling down, and, you know, there weren't any noticeable signs of leakage or anything going on up there, so.
but anyway, it's just something we should look at.
Yeah.
So that we know where we stand
Yeah.
for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
If that's
Yeah.
how far out you guys want to go.
Right.
I mean, we don't have to go 10 years, but
Yeah.
I think the amount of money that this town has, 10 years is easier to reach than 5 years.
Right,
Transfer station building, that's pretty much up to date,
Yeah.
but we still should take a look at it.
yeah,
Salt shed building, like brand new, we should be all set on that.
Yeah.
But we should still have that in the plan
Yeah.
so that we have, looking at it.
okay,
Fire station number 1,
yeah,
we talked about maybe having that as a police station, but it's just something that
well, it needs,
we should look at. That's a concrete building.
yeah,
Maybe it's got a metal roof, heating system.
Right.
But even the heating system, if nothing's gonna happen, we could shut it off.
well, essentially, it is pretty much shut, I think they keep it at 50 or something like that,
Right.
because they store, the
And then there's
foam in it.
I think there's a hose
Tower. I mean.
tower in there.
Yeah,
That's open. I don't know if that's rotted.
yeah.
It's just something we should look at.
Yeah, no, definitely. So the way I look at that is that we could set ourselves a date, you know, just say end of July. By the end of July, we will have either in pairs or as threes, scheduled to review each building.
Okay. And then fire station number 2,
Yeah,
that's had a new heating system.
Yeah.
Then they put a new thing on the roof to
Yeah.
keep it away from the doors.
yeah. And one thing there too is that we can ask the fire department if they'd be willing, you know, take a look at your building and see if you see anything. I mean, not to say that we don't go down and look at it, but, you know, if there's anything that you know.
Well, I noticed it needs to be painted.
Yeah,
Other than that, that's about as far as I did
Yeah.
go in and meet with Randy the other day,
yeah,
but we wasn't talking about the building.
yeah,
And then our bridges, we got Wilkerson Road Bridge, Hudson Pond Bridge.
right,
We do have a thing from the state on Hudson Pond Bridge. Elm Street Bridge,
Yeah.
there's maintenance on that. It was saying that the beams had rusted, we should go in and
Right.
sandblast that, and get it painted. It's just maintenance,
yeah.
but we should look at it, find out how much it's gonna be. If we don't do it this year, at least appropriate the money for next year.
So you're in the sense of doing preventative maintenance on the steel aspects of the structure and look at the
Right.
quality of the concrete and stuff like that. Okay.
Then we got Snow Road Bridge.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know, I don't know if it's feasible to put a concrete bottom in them so we get more life out of them.
Right.
It's just something we should look at.
Yeah, in the sense, well, because we've got Granite Road, if we could buy ourselves some time to spread the costs out, because every dollar we spend on bridges, we're not spending on roads.
Then we get the Bailey Road Bridge, that I'm guessing is okay,
Right,
but that's just something we should look at.
Right.
So we should have that in our file, so
Yeah.
we know what to expect from that.
And steel culvert too, right?
That's a steel, yeah.
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 There's two, I think they're 5-footers in that one.
All right, so again, it's the same sort of schedule, bridges under the same schedule as buildings. We just set ourselves a date that we will have looked at all of them, and, you know, we can look at what the state report says about it and compare what we see on the ground to what the state report says.
So I got, well, Stevens Road Bridge, we know what we're doing, well, hopefully we know what we're doing
Right,
with that.
yeah,
Granite Road Bridge, we just talked about that, about getting the engineer out, or getting that geotechnical
Yeah,
firm out
yeah.
to sound out things.
yeah.
And then.
So as
even-
far as the first step on that goes, looking at, I mean, whatever the cost is gonna be, if we have to do the abutments, the cost changes radically.
Well,
If we can utilize the existing end abutments and possibly get rid of the middle pier, right? But if we have to replace those abutments, that's gonna have a serious effect on the cost of the project, I'm assuming.
well, if the abutments aren't sound,
Yeah,
we could dig down behind the abutments
Yeah.
and pour a one-sided wall.
right.
And then we'd be back to new
Mm-hmm,
and just make those box beams another 4 feet longer.
right,
So they sit on the new abutments, not
Right.
on the old.
right.
But that's something we need to look at,
Right.
and have the engineer look
Yeah,
at.
yeah,
Or-
definitely, yeah.
And then we need a long-term road plan, which I tried to find that in the office today, but I have a clue where that is.
Okay. I might have it on my computer. I'm not sure if I still have that on.
I've got bits and pieces
Yeah.
of it, but I
Yeah.
take it to the parts many times.
Right.
And so anyway, I'll give you a list of what I've got here, and you guys can go over it, if you can add to it,
Yeah,
or if you could think of something, come up with, add
Yeah.
to it.
and one of the things I'll do is look at these things during the week, and at the next meeting is we can talk about setting a reasonable date to have portions of this thing accomplished.
Yeah, we need
Especially the
to,
inspection parts of it, if we, I mean, because,
we need to set a date and actually get it done by
Yeah,
that date.
right.
You know, we keep putting things off, nothing gets done.
yeah. It's just a question, do you use internet much at home yourself? Because I can set up a calendar that is available to the three of us, and then we put a date in there, right? If you make a change to it, right, everybody will see the change all at the same time. Is that something that's, other than that, I'll just do it on paper?
No, I'm fine with the internet.
Okay. Happy enough, Lenny? I mean, okay, what I'll do is, I mean, it's a question, we may end up using it a lot, we may not, but it's no problem to set one up. You know, it's a Google Calendar, and that way, if a change gets made to it, when you look at it, everybody's looking at the same calendar all the time.
All right, so the very first thing we should do is we should go and find out what roads we're gonna crack seal first.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something we should do early,
Right,
because they wanna do it in warm weather.
right,
So let's put that as either number one or on first of the list here.
well, when you start talking, you're talking, middle of April, beginning of June kind of period?
Well, we won't do it anyway until we get done with the roads. So
Right.
it's gonna be middle of June.
Okay.
Later part of June.
Well,
yes.
I'll put June 15th as a date for right now.
Okay. Now, the road reconstruction on the culvert and granite, you wanna set a date when we're gonna put those in?
Well, what's your anticipation on the?
I'm gonna say the end of June, 1st of July, before
Yeah.
we get to them.
Okay,
So call that number 2,
yeah,
okay?
I'll put July 1, okay?
Okay. And I'll get this application for the culvert. So
That's associated with
yes,
Granite Road,
yes,
right?
we'll call that number 2 too. this culvert down here, we can do that anytime.
And it's, you're talking about
Just putting the railing.
restoring the railing on that, right? And, so, is that considered road work?
Would you?
I mean, I mean, I'm thinking it would, you know,
Yep.
yeah,
I mean, it's maintenance.
yeah.
But that's something
Road or
that,
bridges.
Well, it's gonna come out of the road budget.
let's not
yeah,
call it a bridge there. Let's
Well,
call it
I mean,
a culvert, okay?
No, I mean, does it come out of the bridge fund?
All right,
or
so
road
one thing
fund?
we should do is maybe talk to Bob and see if he give us an estimate of what he thinks it would
Either
cost to
that, or
do that.
we can do it ourselves. It's only a matter of just sticking a post up and put a railing. I have some used railings.
Right, I remember you said that, yeah.
It's all good. And I did talk to Bob about, see if he could get some, the ends through from the,
Oh, I mean, the curved ends on it?
yeah,
The-
from,
yeah,
what's his name, Willard Shepherd,
right,
who's the, DOT guy. in
Right.
Freedom. I haven't heard from him, so I don't know whether he found him or didn't, but, that's something we could do ourselves if you want.
You mean the three of us ourselves, or you mean
Yeah,
the
it's
town
just
of
a matter
Effingham?
of sticking I've got some I-beam,
Yeah,
galvanized I-beam, we can stick them out and put a railing on. It's only one piece of railing, it's only just a little,
I'm not opposed to it, I just have no idea whether DOT cares how you do something like that on a town road.
well, it won't matter. It's gonna be 100% better than what we got down there
Right.
now, because there isn't nothing down there
Right,
now.
well, the only reason I'm asking that is
Well, this here is not something that the state will come out and inspect,
right, right.
because it's not classified as a bridge, it's gonna be classified as a culvert.
Right, now, and this is the municipal Henry speaking. The
Okay.
one disadvantage of doing work ourselves is if there was ever an accident involved in that road, and there was any way that the accident victims' lawyers could sit back there and say the town's at fault on this, we have no insulation between us and the lawsuit. If you pay somebody to do it, they become responsible for the safety of the job. And speaking on a municipal level, that's the point where, you know, you sit back and say, okay, 3 selectmen could go out there and spend an afternoon doing it, and it costs the town very little money. Or you pay somebody to do it, and it costs them money. The advantage of doing that is just what I said.
I was just thinking, we have the materials,
Yeah.
and so it would be pretty simple to do. But
Okay.
what do you think, Lee?
Well,
Yeah, well, I can see Henry's point, yeah.
yeah. Well, as I
So,
said, it's not a
okay.
question, I mean, we can go down, one of the things when we, at a meeting, we sit back, we're all gonna, just so everybody knows, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning, the 3 selectmen are going to go down and look at this culvert and see what to do about the railings on it, and how to deal with it. You know, all we need to do is to make sure is that at every meeting, if we know we're gonna wanna do something on our schedule, we need to have this done now, is we need to bring it up at the meeting, that this meeting is recessed until tomorrow at 11, or whatever day it is, till Thursday at 1 o'clock.
I don't have any problem with Bob doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty
Well, no, as I said,
simple.
it's just, we'll look at it when we go down there.
All right, we do need to go down and look at the transfer station to see what we need to do there on the paving.
Yeah, and I just assume try to get that done as fast as possible, and I'm pretty sure we have the money in the transfer station restoration fund, or whatever you wanna call it. I'm pretty sure we'd have enough money to do that, but the snow's off the ground. The one thing we may have to do it is move the big container.
I don't know if we have to pave down that far.
Okay,
The water's all down now.
Right.
The biggest thing is to ditch that off the pavement so
Right.
that water runs out through the culvert.
Yeah.
The culvert's probably 18 inches lower
right,
than what it is right behind the compactor.
right.
So we can drop that ditch down,
Yeah.
and that water will run around there. It's just
Right.
we need to pave it so it pitches out.
Oh, I understand, but in the winter, the problem that you have in there is that ditch line, the low point now, right?
Right.
It was the high point now, right? That ditch line is the last place to get sun in town.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it gets none. I mean, it's the last place to thaw out on the station. So in the winter, you're gonna ice that thing out. So when it starts to melt, the thing's gonna be frozen solid.
Yes, but if we, where the compactor is,
Yeah.
it runs up to the
Yeah,
compactor.
yes.
So we got plenty of pitch to pitch that
Yes,
out to
yeah.
the outside of the.
Which will make a
packet.
difference. I mean,
Right.
you know, the water's melting and it will work its way underneath the ice and get down there. Right. It just has no place to go right now.
But that's something we should get down and look at.
Yes, and we could do that. We could start looking at that now as far as getting an estimate of what it costs.
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay, well, we'll bring that one up tomorrow night.
All right,
I
you
mean,
wanna
next
call
week.
that, you wanna use that as number 3?
Well, I'm just gonna put that, let's discuss this one next Tuesday, because
Okay.
we can get
Leave
the,
it out.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna put next week on this, we'll bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay, and the others, we can just, looks like we can work on whenever we get a chance.
Mm-hmm. And I did talk with Tom about, they're going up and mark these, the cutouts on Molly Philbrook that they're most concerned about. I don't know if he got it done, but he says because the winter ended so quickly that you can drive up and down the road now.
Yeah, I
So,
do.
so he said, yeah, so he said that he was gonna mark them. I don't know if he's got it done, but the sooner he has that done, the sooner that we need to get together with them, walk it with them, and then walk with Bob, get a really good estimate on the price. But there's no reason we couldn't get these estimates done, like within a month. We may not get to the work until later, but
Exactly.
we at least get that done. Right, all right. So as far as Molly Philbrook Road, why don't we put down, if this is, March, April, why don't we say that we want to have that kind of done by the 25th of April or something? The 19th, 26th, that's the last. So it would be the first Tuesday in May, because we don't meet the last Tuesday in April. So first Tuesday in May. We should have had a good understanding of what we're going to be required to do there this summer. And I guess you call that a work plan, you know, the work order, basically. Personnel policies, there's really no reason not to, you know.
Well, it's
again-
just something we should.
Well, no, I'll bring it up
review.
next week. I'll bring it up next
Right.
week, and then we just inform the department heads that, you know, understand that this, you know, you need to review your personnel policies. The selectmen
no.
are reviewing.
We need to review them.
Right,
And if they're not up to date, then they need to bring them up to date.
right,
Yes.
right. But when you're talking about dealing with a department heads, the responsibility of the department head, we need to say, listen, just so you know, the selectmen are reviewing all current policies in town. Please review your personnel policy for your department. Right. They basically make the decisions on it. I mean, that's what they get hired to do. So we can't, you know, it's in one sense.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the policy. I'm just saying
Well, I
we
know.
should review it, make
Yeah.
sure it's up to date. If it isn't, then they need to bring it up.
Oh,
to
no, I
date.
agree with you
That's all.
100%,
That's
because
all.
I do know that you run into court cases where you're holding up the policy and the judge or the other lawyer is gonna ask, when was the last time this was reviewed? Oh, 2006. Oh, you know, whatever it is, it needs to be more recent than that, so. But there's no reason that we couldn't start doing that right away.
Right.
So again, Tuesday night, this is just something I'll bring up, is that we want to inform the department heads to please start reviewing their personnel policies, and the selectmen are going to be reviewing all standing policies that exist in town. Yeah. Tuesday, okay. All right.
Okay, so I think we need to get these things in order first, and then work on the capital improvement.
Right,
So that when budget season runs around,
Right.
we'll have an idea what
yeah,
our building's gonna need,
Yeah.
how much it's gonna cost us,
Yeah.
and all that.
yeah. And one thing I was thinking of doing, and again, this is just, I'm just thinking about it right now, but, of course, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I'll think of it in a minute. Okay. Oh, on roads. When you look at back 3-year average, and I'm gonna look back closer to 5 to 7, but we're spending about $300,000 a year on road maintenance and, paving projects and stuff like that. And there is a decent road plan out there. But the one thing we've never done is sat back there, like you're trying to say about, planning ahead for capital improvements, improvements in the infrastructure, is to sit back there and, the problem we ran into on the roads is we raised $200,000 to pave a section of Green Mountain Road. And then what we were looking at ended up being closer to $270.
Yeah,
And so it's about $300,000 a mile to take a paved road, improve the substrata of the road and then pave it. So it's just not asking enough money, but to try to come up with that money sort of every 2 years, you know, what I'd like to see happen is to get together with a couple people that really understand this, and maybe somebody from the budget committee, and just get a group together and start trying to rationalize how we deal with that money when it's raised. Because what we do is we raise a certain amount of money, and then we try to spend underneath that amount, or just spend that amount of money, but there's really no plan that's associated to the road plan, because we just don't do it. I'm kind of thinking along the lines of, you set up a fund that you put money into every year so that you build up a decent road fund. But in the interim, you look at, well, there's certain roads that need work now. It's like what got done last year. Some people disagree, but I think that when you're doing a road, I don't want to pass a problem that the town's been paving over for 40 years down the road. When you look at spending the money on the earthwork to make the road bed worth doing is a pretty good idea, in my opinion, because it makes it easier for the future, because you can just repave the road. When we were looking at Green Mountain Road, one of the things is there was so much shimming in it that it was going to cost us a fortune to do the shim and the seal on top of that, because the road bed's just too uneven.
That's the other thing. You know, we can put anything down what we're going to do, but we should put down what we have money to do.
Right.
Not put down what we'd like to see done.
Right.
We need to go out and assess what we need to get,
Right.
what we want to do,
Yeah.
and figure out how much that's going to cost us.
Right.
I mean, we can get FRK will come up and give us a price on whatever length of road we want.
Right.
And this way here, we'll know exactly how much road we can do for X number of dollars that we
Right.
got.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to work on.
Yeah.
Like Green Mountain, we should have put our money into Green Mountain, just shorten that distance, that's all.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, that's what we voted to do, Green Mountain.
Yeah.
And then we went to Pine River, and then that got thrown out.
Oh, I know exactly
went
what
back and
happened.
done
Yeah.
patches, so
Yeah.
we need to stick with whatever we come up with.
Yeah.
Because we tell the taxpayers we're gonna do Green Mountain, we go off and do Pine River.
Yeah. Believe me, I remember.
So we need to stick with it, and we can come up with figures. We can get Carroll up there, and he'll give us an estimate of how much that's gonna cost us, you know? So, I just think that we need to stick with the plan and come up with a plan that we can afford.
Right.
Not put down, we're gonna do 10 miles of road, and we only got money enough to do a half of it.
Yeah, no, I did some stuff on paper. I didn't bring it in tonight because I just didn't think this was the place to do it, but just a different way to, we're talking the same amount of money. It's just sort of how you divvy it up and and where you put it. But I wrote some stuff down. I'll bring that in on Tuesday and pass it out. I don't imagine we'll act on it Tuesday. We got enough to do this coming Tuesday, but I'll put that on the table, and it explains a little better what I'm trying to talk about, because I think we're saying the same thing. It's just I'm looking at it from
that road plan from the
state, from the school. Yeah.
University of Hampshire there, that had some good ideas,
Yeah.
but the prices weren't right.
No.
And that's what we gotta determine, is
Yeah.
how much is that section of road gonna cost us?
Mm-hmm.
And can we afford that section? Or
Right.
do we have to shorten that section?
Right.
And only do part of that
Right.
section?
Yeah, and one of the things I look at when you look at, all right, so doing a mile of a particular road is gonna cost $300,000, and we don't wanna raise that much this year, or we can't because of other things. And so you look at the fact, well, up to 300,000, 117,000 of that was earthwork. Well, can we afford $117,000 and then leave the road unpaved, or put a coat of pavement, a top coat over it, or something like that? It's what you raised X amount of money. You can't always get everything that you want. So is it possible to look at, it's like they did with Townhouse Road, they did all 3 sections before they top coated the thing. We need to start looking at it that way, and I'd love to be, but I just don't foresee it happening, is to do some earthwork and let it be a dirt road for the rest of the winter, but that ain't gonna fly. I don't think people will accept it. But that strikes me as the kind of thing that
Well,
makes sense to try.
if you leave it gravel, you still have maintenance on it.
Yeah.
You still have to grade it.
Yeah.
Because it gets
Well, it's the
potholey
spring
and
is the
that,
problem.
So you still have,
The spring is the real problem, is mud.
you get the plowing of
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I think it's better off to do shorter section,
Second, do
get
it.
it finished, and then
Right.
move on and do
Yeah,
the next
and my
section.
overall philosophy is if instead of doing a mile,
do the base too,
Hmm?
not just,
Right,
yeah. not
well,
just-
that's my thing, instead of doing a mile, you do 3/4, but I would rather do a half mile and get the base right, so that, you know, the next time the road needs to be paved, all it needs is to be paved, because, you know, you've taken out the
Well,
soft spots and you
the-
put in water barriers, you've done all that kind of stuff. Now, it costs us a little extra money and takes us some time to do, or you spend a little more on the distance of road, but overall, for the future of the town, for the next 50 years, it'll save them money.
yeah,
Yeah.
the top's only good as the base.
Yeah,
Right.
If the base ain't no good, top
Yeah.
ain't gonna be no
Yeah.
good. You can see that on, that section they done on Elm Street.
Yeah.
You know, they just paved over what was there
Yeah.
and fixed underneath.
Right.
So now it's
well,
all,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it was,
we knew that at the time,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just,
yeah, but it did, it cracked. and
Yeah.
so forth, so, yeah.
well, it proves the point, that's for sure. Yeah.
Right.
You can put lipstick on a pig, but still a pig.
Yeah, and the other thing, when we have projects, the other thing I want to do is to sit back there, so we have a project, I want to start a file on it, so that every piece of paper that we get and every communication ends up in the file. And it's on the table when we're talking about it, and it's the town's copy. I mean, you know, when something comes in, we can make 4 copies, one for each of us and one for that damn file. And that way, there's always this central location that everything that we've got in it, and this falls back to that thing, Lawrence, about please don't have stuff delivered to your house.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, let me answer this one. I brought what I had in on Stevens Road.
Right,
And everything I had
yeah,
was in the office except for that the blown up plan. She had the
Right.
plan, smaller
Yeah.
version.
yeah,
The only thing she didn't, that was the blown up plan.
right,
But she had everything else.
Yeah.
It all goes to the office.
yeah, all right.
You know?
Yeah, but if, as I said, if you're talking with an engineering firm or something like that, and they're gonna send it, have them, and say it's emails, and I have this stuff, I'll bring in copies of it, but it's a really good, some lawyer wrote up about how to deal with email. If you want something from an engineer emailed to you, they email it to the town and they CC you, right? So, but the first address on that email is the town, and then it can get sent to you, right? It can get sent to all 3 of us. But the first address on that always has to be the town, you know, and any envelope should never say Lawrence Edwards such and such Townhouse Road, Route 153. It should say Town of Effingham. That's what the envelope should always say. It's just, believe me, if somebody has a bone to pick and there's stuff with your name on it, your office becomes fair game, you know, the office in your house becomes fair game. So you just really need to be careful about that.
All right, like I said, everything
Yeah.
that I had,
Yeah.
she had in that
Right,
office.
yeah,
So
I'm
I
not
didn't
speaking
have
about this
anything-
on a back issue, Lawrence, it's
that
just,
she didn't have.
it's an establishment of a process that you really need to pay attention to. I really don't give a hoot and a holler about what happened in the past.
Okay. So that's all I had.
All right.
I'm sure we can probably add to this, but take it and look it over and
Well, I think the fact that we're really looking at, understanding that we want to review the road budget at least every 2 weeks, you know, look at it, I mean, in particular, you know, so we have to manifest, we have all that stuff, we all look at the numbers, but stop and ask ourselves, how we doing on the road budget? You know, where does it stand? And then remember to ask ourselves this question, are there any outstanding bills? You know, that kind of stuff. We just need to pay attention to that, because we just can't let happen again what happened last year.
well, you see last year, we can't foresee a
wetland
rainstorm like that. We
Right.
can't.
And I mean, that's one of the things that I really would like to think we'll put forward to the budget committee next year is establishing a fund that's essentially emergency fund, you know, and build it up. So, you know, maybe it has $15,000 in
Yeah,
it. and-
if we can come up with the money for it, yeah.
Right, yeah. Right. But what that does is it allows you to look at the annual appropriation that you have for summer road work, and you sit back there and say, okay, you know, we can do this job now, right? Because we have that little cushion that's, you know, in a fund. So,
Well,
cool.
we'll have a better handle on it after we get the roads done, get the calcium on, then we'll
Yeah.
know where we're standing there.
Right.
Then from there on, it's just a matter of the grading.
Right.
Which is a lot less money
Yeah.
than in the beginning. The beginning is where you spend all your money.
So, and Claudia's really apologized, she just couldn't find that schedule when she was, maybe she did, last I talked to her, she hadn't found it. She just gave me the amount. Do you know when that was proposed to start for the grading schedule for this coming year? I mean, it wasn't in March, but it probably was
no.
towards the
Well,
end of April.
we don't until, the
Frost is out.
because this year we're gonna be earlier because the ice is out of the ditches and stuff.
Yeah.
There's very few places where there's still ice in the ditch,
Yeah.
So
So-
we'll be earlier this year,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we'll have more grading this year than we normally would.
Right.
Because we're starting it.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
All right, so we just need to sit back there and look at that schedule, and if it was $42,000 was an estimated cost, just to see whether or not we might need to, in our minds, boost that up a little bit. But as you said, you think that maybe is a little bit high. And there's always the possibility that if we're doing a good job between ourselves, checking the roads, to say, listen, you can skip this section of this road this year, this month, or, this cycle.
well, it's like last year, the Granite Road. There was just a section of that was washboardy,
Right,
but yet we done the whole road.
right,
We should have just gone and done that section.
right,
And that would have saved us money.
yeah,
So that's why I say we need to go out and look at
Yeah.
roads, not have
right,
somebody, a taxpayer,
Right.
call up and say, my road needs graded. We
Yeah.
need to go look and
Yeah.
make sure that it warrants grading,
Right. So as far as just doing a section of road, as it tapers into the ungraded section fairly well? I mean, your experience with, grading roads, does that present a problem to be going down a dirt road and just stop in the middle of it?
Oh, no.
No?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah,
No.
okay.
No.
Because I'm all for that, and that gets us back to that point where as we start building up, little 2-hour jobs until you can get 2 or 3 days' work lined up and have it all done at one time. It's a question of evaluating the situation. This is something that needs to be dealt with right now, as opposed to putting it on the list of stuff to do the first of the month, so to say.
Right. He runs that grader from Freedom all the way to
Right.
Granite Road for 2 hours. If he's got a full day,
Yeah.
not on Granite Road, but on roads
Right.
that's close to that,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
You're saving money.
Yeah, so that's just sort of so it falls to us to really look at the schedule, what needs to be done is setting up a schedule for it, sit back there, right, yeah, yeah. And then you get into, it's like, I know we're gonna probably pretty soon start getting complaints on Old Pound Road because it is beat up.
Oh, yeah.
People seem to forget there used to be a flood season where you couldn't use the road at all, and now it's a question of just having to drive under 25 miles an hour. But we're not gonna change people, so.
We can?
Yeah, it's always worked for me, Lawrence. Lenny, any particular questions you have? Or?
The only one I got is how will we stand on representation to the boards? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
do you want to do planning board again, or?
No.
All right. It was a definite.
No, I mean, I didn't have no problem with
Yeah.
planning board.
Right.
Actually, planning board went really smooth.
Yeah.
And Joanna does a really nice job.
Yeah.
My
I do
planning
know
board
that
really
they're-
good.
Yeah, I do, and I'm using the term capital improvement plan on their thing. They're really working on that, and that's something that I think selectmen would be a good idea to have somebody on. Now, I don't mind picking that up, but Lenny, if you want it for the experience, because I can always go to a meeting. I mean, if they're going to be talking about the capital improvements plan, but what you have is one member of the selectmen is ex officio member of the planning board. So, and they meet on Thursdays. First Thursday of the month, but they also have a lot of work sessions. It can eat up evenings pretty quick working with the planning board. I don't mind doing it, but there's nothing wrong with you gaining the experience on it.
Lenny, you learn a lot on planning board of a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I-
It's
I-
interesting.
I really am gonna,
Sorry if I
Yes. all I'm saying is I'd be happy to do it, but I think it'd be a good thing for you to do, and when they start doing, you can let me know when, they're gonna start really looking at their capital improvement plan and moving along, and I can come sit in on the meetings, not as a voting member, but, happy enough for the information, so.
I think it just gives you an idea of what's going on with
Yeah.
the different boards, but I just think we should rotate so that
Yeah.
we are not on just one board
Right.
for the whole period.
Yeah,
Like I was on the
yeah, I don't mind hanging out with the.
Starry District, and then I
Yeah.
went planning board.
Yeah.
And even with the planning board, I was on the planning board for 14 years there, a long time. But it's a lot has changed
Yeah.
since when I was on there.
Yeah,
you know?
it has, yeah. Yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah, I don't mind staying
Good.
with because I understand what the Historical District Commission is going through, and I don't mind continuing working with them. I don't have a problem doing that, so I
no,
can continue to
he,
do that.
somebody mentioned about, one of us should be on the budget committee. I
Well-
don't mind being on the budget.
Right, and in the sense that you will make generally speaking, we pretty much made
Right.
all of us made all the meetings anyways, but you could be the person that would be sort of assigned. I don't think it's an ex officio member of the budget committee. I don't think that they allow state government allows the selectmen's representative to have a vote on the planning board, but, I mean,
No,
on the,
but I
on
mean,
the budget committee.
just to be at the meeting,
Yeah.
each meeting,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we can inform the chairman of the planning board that you'll be the ex officio member of the
Sure.
planning board? Okay, and I'll let Eric know on, well, I don't know if they've elected officers yet, but I'll let Eric know that I'll continue to do the work with historic, and then, I mean, as I said, we'll make these motions next
Okay.
Tuesday, all right, yeah, all right. And I don't know if you've got this stuff yet on the selectmen's 3-day workshop, but I think they're doing one that's closer than Concord this year.
Yeah, it's right in Carroll County.
Yeah.
Oh, Carroll County Complex will be there.
Go.
Wow, she's already getting
Yeah,
scheduled.
good, yeah. I mean, it's kind of an essential thing to do,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
It's not till May though.
Well, you know.
May 21st, I think it was.
5th, I think.
25th?
Yeah.
We'll
Till
protect you,
Wednesday.
we'll protect you best we can. So. I gotta have that put in the action folder. All right, well, yeah, my list and your list pretty much were all the same stuff. It's a question of really paying attention to certain portions of the budget. And the one other thing that I was thinking about asking the budget committee if they might want to look at the possibility of when they get into the selectmen's budget of giving road issues its own meeting schedule as opposed to lumping in with the rest of the budget. Because I think we're going to be doing a lot of work and thinking about it ourselves this year, right? And I think it might be a nice idea to ask the budget committee whether or not they'd be willing to look at it as a separate issue. I mean, it falls underneath the selectmen's budget, but it's that important, and it's, you know, a third of the budget, so it's something I'd like to see get particular, you know, individual attention when we really start to look at roads. Because some of the stuff you're talking about is, you know, looking ahead and trying to save up to do certain things and stuff like that. So, but as that goes along, we can pay attention to that.
Well, if you don't, you ain't got no budget if you don't.
Right.
You know, you need to look ahead
Yeah,
and know
yeah.
what we're gonna have
Yeah.
for money so that we know where we're
Yeah.
at.
Well, as I said, I mean, you know, I've been saying that at the meetings, we have a pretty decent road plan provided by the university, but we've just never paired the money to it.
Right.
And, you know, the biggest problem I see right now is with Granite Road. The bridge on Granite Road. I mean, the amount of money that bridge could cost puts our road budget, just, excuse my French, but screws our road budget to the wall.
Well, the thing with Grant Road is, if the state had the money right now, I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that money's gonna be there in 2024 or not.
Right.
And is it gonna be 2024 or is it gonna be 2030? That's the thing.
Yeah, they have become a little more rational about the funding. It was always sort of the state government would make a decision on whether or not to continue the funding that they've been giving in the last year. Now what they did is they tied it to the increase in the gas tax. So, you know, as much as possible in the Hampshire state government, it's a guaranteed amount of money every year. And it's
So-
never been guaranteed
Okay.
before. It's always been available to be, you know, shaved here and dipped into
You
there.
know the legislature, they can always change the rules.
Right, yeah.
So,
Well, the thing is if we can fix it for less than what the 20% is gonna
Right.
be, is it worth fixing it?
Right.
Or should we wait until, put our application in and wait until 2024 and
Right.
then do it
Right.
with state aid money?
Yeah,
That's the thing we gotta look at.
yeah, so one of the questions there that we're running into is how guaranteed is the money? And I think when we talk with Bergeron, of all the people that I've talked to in the last 3 or 4 years on bridges and roads and stuff, they seem to have more knowledge of it because they work in it so often. is it might be worthwhile to sit back and ask them to, if there's a way that we can have another conversation with them about the bridge aid.
Well, yeah, either that or maybe one of us ought to go right to Concord and see if we could come up with something.
One of the things that I think is, one of the reasons it might be better to go with somebody like Bergeron is that they sit back there, they know the questions that we don't think to ask.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, they probably work through every municipal problem that any town is, you add them all up, every municipal problem related to Bridge Aid Fund, they probably worked through that briar patch. And so it's probably a good idea to try to set something up with them. So in the sense of trying to get an understanding about how to fund the Granite Road Bridge so that we can apply a schedule to it. If we give ourselves a date of saying, because we've got this other stuff to do, but if we give ourselves a date of saying, we'll have an understanding of how that works by June 15th. It just, I mean, I want to put dates on this stuff just because it holds our nose to the grindstone on it. So I wouldn't think it was unreasonable for us to be able to gather enough information and get the bigger picture on the funding process for Granite Road Bridge and how it's going to affect the rest of our road budget by the middle of June. Right, and which means, basically we need to start getting in touch with and see what it might cost to have one of them come down here and spend time with us at a meeting.
Well, the other way you would look at that is, they look at that as that's their income,
Right.
too, So HEB had, I forgot, 210,000 for engineering fee. They had 60,000 for contingency fee.
Right.
They had a lot of money in that thing that.
Oh, so you're talking about the cost of the project.
Right.
Well, we're going to be doing other stuff on that. I mean, we're going to be, looking at, like you said, have somebody come out and evaluate this and do some, I mean, we can get a lot of groundwork done, but I'm really just sort of talking more about whatever it ends up costing is going to affect the road budget. I mean, like I said, every dollar we put into bridges, we cannot put into roads. And taking, say, $300,000 to fix a bridge or something like that, like Granite Road Bridge or whatever, I mean, $500,000, $750,000, that means that School Street never gets paved. But I mean, that's the problem I have with this. And so in the sense of, I'm loath to see the town lose infrastructure it already has, but I gotta admit, personally, I'm not that worried about getting Granite Road Bridge open to time. I'm a little more worried about School Street. I mean, it's, there isn't a piece of tar in there bigger than 3 square feet in the whole road, so I kind of look at that as more of the priority is get the roads fixed than that one particular bridge. But if we can do both, great, but I want to see how close we can come to doing both.
Okay. If we can get Granite Road Bridge fixed for less than what our 20% would be, are you for that?
If we can get it, we're going to pay 20% of whatever it is.
Well, the only figure we have is one of HEB's.
Right.
I think HEB's figure is high, but that's the only figure we have.
Well, if you look at HEB in relationship to Stevens Road, their estimate of 260, and we're going to get it closer to what, 190? What's
210.
210,
Well, we
right.
had 210.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll come in less than
right?
that.
Yeah, but the numbers that you've been putting on the table and has provided all the permits and everything
Right.
online, we'll go ahead on that. We were looking at closer to 190, so that's like a 40% inflationary cost. And whether or not we can apply the same percentage to what they're estimating on granite, we need to start, like you said, have somebody come in and do an evaluation on the abutments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that way there it takes the guesswork out of it.
Well, but it
You
also
know.
has to be done anyways, right? I mean,
Well, it depends. Why, if we're not going to go that route, why waste the money on doing that? If
mean-
we're going to go with a full replacement bridge,
Right.
then there's no sense
just take,
in-
I mean, we're going
doing
to take
that.
them out whether they're good or not.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So that's something that we gotta determine whether we're gonna have somebody come and look at our abutments
Yeah.
and see if they're any good,
Yeah.
or are we just gonna, is that wasting money?
Yeah.
And we should put our money into the
All right,
new bridge.
okay,
That's something we gotta determine.
yeah, okay.
Um,
Rationale. Okay. All right,
My opinion, I think we can get the Granite Bridge fixed for less than the 20% that we would be coming up
hey,
for
based
from
on
state.
the figures that
Now,
they put.
granted,
Based on $1 million.
right.
Yeah,
Granted, we're not gonna have the same bridge
right,
as we would if we went with the state
Yeah.
replacement. But we'll have it open
Yeah,
a lot sooner than 2024.
right, yeah. Yeah, I have a couple other just thoughts on Granite Road, Bridge, but I'll save them for a regular meeting, because it's the sort of thing, it doesn't need to be decided right now, but, so. Trying to think if there's anything else particularly that I wanted to cover. I think we're pretty good. I really do, as each of these projects, basically, I want to start a folder on them. I'll get a timeline set up on the computer that we can look at, and it'll send warnings, 2 weeks ahead of time, saying, don't forget, you said you'd have this done by such and such a date, so that it gets brought up in time at a meeting to move it along and stuff like that. But we need to give ourselves deadlines, because stuff comes up. I mean, you have these wonderful schedules, and then
Oh, yeah, there's always
life
something
intrudes,
comes,
stuff comes up,
something comes in.
and you get back up on stuff. So when we establish a date that we want to have something done by, I like to be a little generous. I'm not opposed to getting it done sooner, but be a little generous, because generally speaking, in any 6-week period, you're going to lose 2 weeks because something else came up. So, anything else particular you wanted to bring up? Or?
No, I just think we need to set a schedule
Yeah.
and do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I'll get a calendar up and running by next Tuesday. I'll bring that in just so I can show it to you all, and then I'll plug in some of the stuff that we have here. And then what we can do is that, I mean, I don't like opening a computer at a meeting, but basically when a meeting is pretty much over, the last public comment period's over, is just sit down and do any updates and stuff like that on the computer that we wanted to do. Next week I'll bring in, actually I'll email it to you all. I did get from the state, can't remember what part of the state it was from, but a really good thing on email communications and 91A right to know and all that, how to deal with that kind of stuff. It's concise, and every problem I've ever heard about is dealt with in there. It's a pretty good little document, and I'd like possibly to adopt that, but I'll bring copies in next week to show you all. It doesn't have to happen right away, but I think that's pretty important.
You think you have the copy of the
The road plan?
road plan from the university?
If not, I can probably get a copy through the university, but I'm pretty sure I
Well, they
do.
must have it,
Yeah, yeah.
I looked in that road.
Yeah.
Thing,
But I'll see if I can get it on, I think I have it on the computer that I have my other one at home. I think I have it on
Well,
there.
let's see,
And then I could just
get one for
email it to
Lenny,
you.
Lenny, have
Yeah.
Lenny look at it.
Yeah.
Well, he knows what we're talking
Yeah.
about with it. And it's a good plan, it's just, the figures weren't right.
Well, yeah, by a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it
30,
was way
40%.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's something that we use as a guide
Yeah.
for when we talk about a road plan.
Yeah.
So, do you wanna, set up a date when we go down and look at the transfer so that we get that?
We do it Tuesday,
Scheduled?
as I said, we do that Tuesday. I mean, this is a work session, and I'm not setting any, I'm putting stuff, writing it down, but anything, just results of this meeting, we need to sort of bring up at our next selectmen's meeting, and then as far as establishing a date and stuff like that, we do that in public, so people are aware of it. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the stuff that we said so far having it done, they're just sort of a reasonable time, and I'll use those numbers in the calendar that I set up.
Okay.
But, they're there to be changed at this point.
Now, we talked about, a grant.
I'll bring this up again next Tuesday, but I did get in touch with the grant writer that Dave Strauss gave me a name, but essentially she has an hourly rate. I'll bring that up, and we'll discuss whether it might be worth having her come down and talk with us.
Now, does she do federal grants? Or just
She can
state?
kind of do any grant you want. That's what she does. I mean, a portion of what she does is that she essentially, the communication I had with her is she will come into the town, see what you want, see what you're trying to achieve, and then she applies her knowledge of what grants are available, and what applies to what you're looking at and what doesn't. Right? And then proceeds to, if you want to pay her, proceeds to do the work to fill the grants out.
Okay, so do we want to work on a plan of what we want to get a grant for, so that when the time comes, we're ready?
Well, I think when we go over and do this review of town buildings and stuff like that, that's the kind of information that we really need to put into that, you know, as far as the grants that I did look some up online the other day, the community block grants, and generally speaking, there has to be a very strong tie to people in, at or below the poverty level need to benefit from the money that's being spent.
Well, we're way below that anyway.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
you know, what they would do is, suppose you wanted to try to use the grant to do something with the parking lot at the thing, what they're gonna look at is that the patrons of the parking lot, you know, averaging, that's the way that they look at it. Now, how they prove stuff and all, but as I say, I'm just putting that forward, is that one of the strong contingencies on that is that it benefits people of a lower income, which, your point being is that Effingham has a good crop of people at lower income, and you can make that argument. The other set of grants, I gotta get in touch with Ann Getchell, I'll try to do that by Tuesday, Ann Getchell, and see what the schedule is on those grants, and, because they have different criteria. So, the ones that I was thinking of that you end up getting through the county, the community block grants, look a little iffy, in the sense that generally speaking, there has to be a more direct benefit. It's hard to say that, well, it's better for the patrons, it's safer for the patrons. Yes, a lot of people that are at poverty or below poverty use our library, but you're trying to spend money on the parking lot, not what books are available, what computers are available, and stuff like that.
Well, we're not looking just for the parking lot.
Oh, I know.
We're looking for we're gonna put the drainage around the building.
Yeah,
And then they were talking about the bricks
Yeah.
that are around the building,
yeah,
ready to
right,
topple over.
yeah,
That's something we gotta
yeah,
fix. And then, the painting of the building.
right. Well, we've been setting aside money for the painting. Now, as far as doing, I think the grant process that comes out of cooperative extension, I think is gonna be a better bet for trying to, if we can get some of that money related to repairs and stuff at the library. Particularly since when we got the L-chip grant, that part of the recommendation of that whole study was to do the work that we're trying to do. So I think we have a pretty good argument on that particular one, but that's a different grant stream than the one that's coming out of the county, which is the one I was able to look up on the computer the other day. So, but no, it's worth pursuing. I'll get in touch with Ann Getchell, because she's the one that administers that program.
Okay, did she say what she needed for information?
At this point, I don't have enough to really say right now. I mean, I'll get in touch with her.
So this L-chip grant, is that still available?
That's a possibility, yeah.
That comes out in May.
I'm not sure about that, to tell you the truth.
These, I don't know, when we get the original one, I bet we were 2 years working on that.
Well, 2 years, but of their money and our money.
Right, yeah. And I mean, Lawrence's point being is that it may be 2 years, but you have to start sometime where it's always gonna be 2 years, you know, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
mean,
If we
they're not easy.
knew what we were
Yeah.
getting the
Yeah.
grant for, and ahead of time, when the grant come out, we
Right.
could apply for it,
Yeah.
and we'd be ahead of
Get all the
them.
groundwork and all your documentation done, stuff like that. Okay, so, all right, well, I'm gonna put down just as, because I'll try to get that on the agenda, is grant information on the agenda. Okay.
We also have a town hall restoration.
Right, and that primarily is painting, 20-something, you know, between $20,000 and $25,000 to paint that building.
That's only half of it, right?
As far as I know, it was the whole building, but we're looking at the possibility of, instead of painting the whole building every 5 years, is to every 2 years paint one side. And then every third year paint the sunny side that gets cooked. You know, I mean, we can play that by, you know, we have to figure out about that, but I mean, essentially.
Well, that last paint job didn't last a crap.
Well, they scraped it pretty well, but you've got clapboards on there. I don't know if they're 200 years old, but I mean, they're really old clapboards. They don't hold paint, and they don't hold, paint doesn't hold like the old lead-based paint used to.
From the,
Oh, it's because there's lead paint under it.
Right, but you've got, one of the problems with that is it's such old wood is that when you get high moisture content and stuff like that, the wood expands and contracts terrifically, which for latex paint it's you know, especially the side that sits in the sun, it's just gonna fall apart within 2-3 years. I really, you know, that building is gonna constantly cost us $20,000 a year to paint every 6 or 7 years. You're never gonna get out from underneath it.
no,
Yeah,
well, that's maintenance.
yeah,
But the report was basically, this building was pretty sound.
yeah,
you know, the sills and everything
Yeah.
in that building,
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
The,
Well, it was done right when they did it.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's been there that long, so
Yeah.
it must be pretty
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
you know.
It bounces a bit.
So it's just a matter really of maintenance on it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, but that comes back to that part where you're talking about is that once a week we pick a building, and we mentioned at the meeting that 2 or 3 selectmen are gonna be reviewing this building tomorrow, so we recess the meeting until Thursday, 4 o'clock, when the 3 selectmen are gonna meet at the library to look over the building. I mean, that's what you do. So that falls into that schedule there, you know, so. So it's one of the things I could do is, one of the things we could do at the end of next week's meeting is spend a little time, once I get the calendar set up, figuring out, you know, when, all right, we want to inspect the library by such and such a date, we want to inspect this building by such and such a date, or we want all the buildings done, you know, by the 1st of August, we should have gone through all the buildings and looked at them.
The other thing was, is there any grant money out there not for something other than the Old Town Hall?
All right, well, and therein is the value of, I can't remember her name right now, but the person, she lives up in Jackson, therein is her value. Once we have an understanding, once we've sort of reviewed the buildings and we've looked at this and we've, you know, looked at that, and we have an idea of what we need, we present that information and say, here's what we want to achieve. And then she applies her knowledge of the availability of grants and what they can be used for, and then makes the connections and say, okay, if you want to try to get grant money for this, you need 30%, you know, the town, or whatever the percentage is, and you need this information and this information. In her estimation, you know, all things being equal, you have as much chance to get this grant as anybody else. And that's the kind of information she can put together. I'm assuming, now I haven't had a long conversation, I just had a little email to make sure I could get in touch with her and ask her, you know, how her fee schedule works and stuff like that. But I didn't say come to us, this something that'll come up at the meeting. But that's the value of, you know, when we talk with her, is just how deep is your knowledge of what's available. And, you know, it should be fairly easy to tell that she knows more than us, or less. And I'm not willing to pay for less, but I'm assuming she knows way more than us about it.
Well, if she's writing grants, she
Yeah,
knows
so if you
which
come
one.
up, we could use a for instance when a person like that's in the room and say, okay, here's a project we have, what grants do you think are available to that, and what are the chances of getting it, that kind of stuff. So, you know, but, you know, we're looking at $75 an hour, have her come down here and speak with us and do that. It could cost us $250, but it might be money worth spending, you know, to have her come in there and do a review, and then we can at least say, okay, this is worth pursuing. Now, as I said, I didn't spend a lot of time on the internet with her, but, you know, she did say that this is her fee charge. Now, I don't know if that plus a percentage of any grant achieved or not, but, you know, we can bring that up.
Maybe get a list of what she's gotten from grants
Yeah.
to give us an idea.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I'll sit back there and say, I'll email her and ask her if she has anything, and then I can put that information on the table in the meeting when we're trying to decide whether or not to, you know, where to find the money to have her come down and do this, but I'll find out from her. That's a good point.
And that,
Okay.
check into that L-chip grant, see if it's.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure, she doesn't know all about
I think there was
that.
7 million that went into that
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
So maybe we can get some of that.
right, yeah, whatever the state doesn't use for other things.
Well, I mean, it's something we should look into
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
and get you know, get a list of
Yeah.
what we need to.
Well, yeah,
money
because,
for.
I mean, you sit back there, most, you know, our building, municipal building fund, the library fund, and all the library building fund, stuff like that, there's money in there, but if you can turn around and take 30% for 100% of the cost, it only costs us 30%, we stretch those dollars a long, long way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I know in the past, you know, Randy's done a lot of work, and I did ask him one time if he's willing to do anything that didn't have something to do with the fire department, and he just wasn't, because he's not a grant writer, he does it because he's the fire chief. But I don't think it would be a bad idea to develop a relationship with a grant writer. At least experiment with it for a year and see how it does, because in the long run, it could save the town a significant amount of money and really improve our infrastructure. So I think it's a good idea. But we can make that decision at the meeting, so.
Well, and the other thing was, you know, is there any grant money for improvement to roads? I mean, that's something we should.
Yeah, I've never heard of it for roads, but,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, there was, I mean, I
federal
know that
government put out I forgot how many billions of dollars was for infrastructure.
Right.
can we tap into that?
Yeah,
with a-
generally it goes to the
you know?
state and the DOT probably, just, they have pretty deep pockets. But the one place I've heard that there was grant money that could end up being of a benefit to Effingham is the Province Lake Association is looking at doing mitigation for phosphates, which is basically runoff from gravel roads. And any culvert that's running off of like Molly, anything that's within the watershed, so Molly, Philbrook, and Monument, they put catch basins that allow the water to sediment out before it makes it into the lake. And there was grant money available for that. And I know that it was a year, not last year, it was just the end of the year before. They were looking at that as a possibility. And I spoke to them at the time. I said, if it's getting to the point that, you know, that's happening, let us know, because we end up doing work on those roads. And if there's any way we could tie it in with the grant money and, you know, make the lake safer, let's look at it. But that's the only grant money I've ever heard that's available for roads. And it's more a water quality grant than it is a road grant. It's just roads are the source of a lot of pollution for roads.
Well, that's something we could ask this grant writer.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she's done it before.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah,
and it's the same way with the bridge.
Yeah.
I asked that HEB guy, and he said if it was something that was FEMA, but he didn't say if it was something, if it wasn't FEMA related, whether we could get it or not.
right. Yeah.
And I think we should look at
Yeah.
it.
And just so
If there's
you
money
two know,
there,
I will be putting on the table, I've sent it in for, just to be put in the action folder, there is a FEMA lecture coming up that I think the three of us should attend, but we'll make that decision on Tuesday. It's, you know, you sit down and it tells you how to deal with the process, and that'd be really good knowledge to have before the rainstorm comes, you know.
Yeah.
So,
And get our rock ready.
yeah. I mean, you know, I knew Bill Pike at, when he and John Meisner, they ended up doing a lot through FEMA because they had the big storms that got, you know, state, I mean, the whole
Right.
state was emergency area. They really do know how to do it. But we can go to this thing, and if we think we want a little more information about the rubber meeting the road in Effingham as opposed to in general, we could ask one or two of them to come in and just give us a review on the processes that they went through. You know, don't know if they will, but we can ask.
well, it's just it's all money that we should be looking at,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because we don't have any.
yeah.
We need somebody else's money to do
Well,
something.
yeah, we have pocket change, and we could,
You know,
we could
that's
leverage
the
it. We
thing.
could leverage
If
it
it's
into
out there,
dollars.
we should be looking for it.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, well, we'll bring, as I said, I'll put it on the agenda to talk about the grant writer, and we can make a decision on whether or not to have her come down. And I'll do a little poking around on the web, just put in grant writing, New Hampshire, and see who else might be available for this, since there's other opportunities. I mean, her webpage was essentially just a name and an address. The little bit I talked to her, she seems to have done a fair amount, but I'll spend a little time with her.
How long she been doing grants? Any idea?
From the sound of it, you know, 5 or 6 years she's been doing this, but, you know, we'll see. And I'll, as I said, I just,
Was that the only name you got?
well, it's the one I had is the starting point, but I'll just go up on the computer and just type in grant writers New Hampshire and see who else is available. I mean, there's probably law firms.
Yeah, but I thought Dave had more than one name.
That's the one that he gave me.
That's the only one you had.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
It's enough.
Enough?
So now,
Enough if we do it, right?
Yeah. It's gonna keep us busy.
We just need to pick one, get it done,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
go on from
And
there.
the only other thing, and this is nothing about particular, but if we developed it, one of the problems that I've had with, you know, developing processes and stuff is I've been involved in enough committees to spend hours and days and weeks putting stuff together that end up on a shelf. But there's certain processes that I'd like to be able to pass on to another selectman. So as we run into systems that are working, I'd kind of like to figure out some way just to write it down so that you can, so this worked for this group. You should continue doing this particular thing, because selectmen's come and go, and, you know, somebody else's interest isn't there, or they want to see things change. But there's certain things that you just, no matter who the selectman, you're always going to be dealing with this. And it'd be nice just sort of pass on, you know, this worked for us and this didn't, but we can think about that.
All right, look at that list, if you find something you want to add to it.
All right, so I've got a bunch of, yeah,
On the buildings, if you want, I'll come up with a checklist we need to check off
Yeah.
right down through when we go to look at a building?
Yeah, that'd be work, that's good. Yeah.
that will-
So like roof, foundation, heating system,
Yeah.
electrical, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, cool.
So I'm on that road list we got last week there.
Yeah,
I'll do Rumney Hill, I mean, I'm right
yeah,
there.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you can just see what's washing down there. Coming down the brook, right?
Yeah,
Well, I was trying to get it so that, you know, like when he went to Lord's Hill.
Yeah.
He done everything up there and then
Right.
went around,
Yeah.
went far Ryfield,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But he, if you want,
Oh, we'll run it a couple months.
go
and see what
back,
happens.
go,
Yeah.
go as far as, Elm Street.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if that's
I mean,
quick.
the biggest problem is that the three of us live within 2 miles of each other, so
Right.
we don't have anybody on the other side of town right now.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying, I was trying to get it so that when you went up there, you're doing everything on that end, not having to run around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so are we're not gonna set no dates?
Well, not at the
Next
moment.
week.
No,
Next
as I
week.
said, I'll plug some stuff in just as we chat it up in the calendar, just to get it working, and then we can sit back there and as far as making decisions, this work session, I'm not gonna make decisions. It's just, you know, we're figuring out what we need to work
Like
with.
we never make any decisions.
Well, we will on Tuesday.
Okay. So, what do you think, Len?
Right. We'll get her done Tuesday.
Yeah. All right, so the clock
Did you have
stops.
anything else?
No, I mean,
I covered-
basically, you and I had the same list, it's just, you know, different things to say about it, so. I mean, there was nothing that I was thinking about that you hadn't brought up other than, some sort of more of the bookkeeping aspects or the 91A aspects of being selectman, you know, but that's the email stuff, and I'll pass that out next week. Actually, I'll email it to the two of you in the next day or so.
Now that, the email was just to have a separate email for the government.
Well, I mean, basically, when we look at that, we can make a decision. I mean, my problem is that I have a hard enough time making myself check email more than once a day to begin with, and to have another one that I want to check. You know, I'm not so. It isn't that I want to keep my email off the town website. It's just that it just ends up being something else that you need to check. There's a possibility, I think, that anything that came into an email address for me or you or Lenny that was came to us through the town web pages, it could be forwarded to my regular email. But you know, I just see too many people that just spend their entire day checking email. I check mine in the morning and I check it in the evening, or late afternoon. That's when I check my email. Other than that, I don't turn it on.
Well, yeah, mine comes on my phone, so I,
Yeah.
you know, I get it
Now
notices.
I can bother you all day long.
I check mine when Cindy tells me there's something there.
Right. Yeah.
I never go.
Someplace between the two of us is where you need to end up being.
So you don't think we need to have a,
Well, we can talk about it. I mean, I want to talk with Teresa a little bit and find out a little bit more whether it can be forwarded and
well, I
stuff like
think
that.
we
I'm
should,
not.
I
I'm
think
not.
that is another thing, we should be using the website more.
Yeah.
We should be putting.
Well, as selectmen or the town
Well,
itself?
not as selectmen, but as, just put more stuff on the website so people see it.
Right.
Use it more.
We have a
I mean,
fairly
that's
limited
all.
budget on that. And I've been tracking the charges that we've been getting on that particular, and, you know, she charges basically in 15-minute increments.
Right.
Because some stuff takes literally 3 minutes to do. But, you know, she doesn't usually just do one thing. She usually fills up 15 minutes. But we do have a limit on what we can labor
No,
that
I'm
we
not
can
saying
spend on
that
it.
we need to put everything on it, but I
Right.
just think we use it more and
Yeah.
then we inform the people better.
Right, and the one other thing to consider, when, again, this could be brought up at a meeting when we start talking about the town webpage, is there are companies out there that sponsor municipal web pages. I mean, I'm not saying it's all their business, but a portion of their business is sponsoring municipal web pages. If the community really starts to use that a lot, we may need to start looking into that now. They're more expensive because we're paying per diem as needed, and they have a set fee, and they allow X amount of work in that, and if you require more, your fee goes up. But it might be something we want to look at in the future, but we can play that one by ear. I mean, I like what we're doing now. I mean, I'm assuming it was like 4 years ago, I was at one of the meetings in Concord, and I talked to 3 or 4 companies to do that, and it was more money than we're spending.
Hmm.
Well, yeah.
But there is an advantage to having a company do it, as opposed to one person in your community who just all of a sudden decides that they want to move or they don't want to do it anymore, you know.
Yeah, but Teresa seems pretty good about putting it on.
Oh, yeah, no, I have zero complaints about the service that we're getting for the money we're spending on it, but I'm always a little leery about taking something that becomes an important function in your community and having it rest on the head of one person. You know, she could get sick, you know, she could move, you just don't know. And then one advantage of having a company is that, you know, the company can lose an employee, but the company's still there.
Oh, yeah, there was one other thing I was gonna put on here, is like, you meet every Tuesday. Take 20 minutes after the meeting's done.
Yeah.
And just have a work session so that
Yeah.
we're up to date with what
Yeah,
we're trying
one
to
of
get
the,
accomplished.
one of the announcements that I think I'll make at the end of the meeting is that that's what we're gonna do, but to assure people, and I mean, this is what this meeting is about, is that no motions will be made, no dates will be set, and no money will be spent. It's an open-ended discussion, because there's a lot of times that there's a way I might wanna look at something, or that I think you're looking, I wanna ask a question, or I wanna put something on the table, and it doesn't necessarily mean that this is what I wanna do, I wanna explore this concept. Right. And you're right, I mean, at the end of the meeting, it's a good time to do that, but as long as people are positive, you know, trust us, the fact that when we say that we're not gonna set dates, right, we're not gonna talk about money, and we're not gonna make any motions, right, we're not gonna take any votes. As long as people believe that, then they won't feel that, you know, they feel more comfortable with the fact that the selectmen at the end of the meeting have this work session, and if they had something else to do, they don't feel worried that they have to be there, you know, to make sure that we're doing things right. So, you know, I'm gonna be, that's the one place, I think, as chairman, that I'm gonna have this tendency to be a bit of a hard ass, is procedure. Because it makes a real difference in the perception of the community.
The public can still stay. It's
Yes.
just that
Oh, yeah,
we'll
yeah.
take 20 minutes and
Yeah.
do a work session
Right.
and
Well, the way I look at that is it could end up being an hour and a half, because you get involved in the discussion
Well, yeah,
really
but I
like
mean,
and stuff like that.
we
But,
can,
yeah,
I just think that it will help us,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, you know, the biggest problem I have with that whole system is that we tend to end our meetings with public comment, which gives people the ability to comment on the stuff they heard between the beginning of the meeting and the end of the meeting. And if you're having this work session at the end, the work session is it's a public meeting, you can be there, but it's not a discussion session, right? So I kind of play that by ear, because it might be an advantage in certain cases to sit back there and say, well, you know, I got a guy out here that, you know, is a welder, and we're talking about something that needs some welding, so let's chat with him, you know, but I think just play that a little bit by ear, but I do plan on stipulating at the end of the meetings is,
Well, if we come up with something that's gonna spend money,
Yeah.
we can bring it up at the next
right,
selectmen's meeting.
yeah, and that's the point where I say I'm gonna be a bit of a stickler. We start talking about money, I say, okay, we're ending this discussion right now. You know, I'll put it up, we'll make a note, and it'll go right in the folder, and Claudia will get it and say, all right, this needs to be put on the agenda, because we're gonna talk about this. We get to the point that we realize is that we need to start talking about money, or whether or not to make a decision, stuff like that. That's when the work session conversation kinda ends. Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I've always thought that, Lawrence. It's just, and the other thing I think I'd like to do when we get into the meetings, I'll bring it up at the meeting, is to sit back there and say, in the public comment period, is the first one, is that some people have something to say and they want to leave. That's primarily what it is. A lot of public comment when we get is the stuff we're going to end up talking about anyways. So in one sense, if it's a question of your opinion of how the town's doing or something like that, if you look at the agenda and you see that topic, understand that we're going to talk about that. So please hold your question until after you've heard what the selectmen have to say about it. But yeah, we'll play that by ear. All right?
Okay.
Happy enough? Okay, I'll get these minutes written up. These are just a list of what we talked about doing. Essentially, that's all it's going to be, is a work session and scheduling things, you know, reviewing policies, scheduling inspections on building, roads, and stuff like that. That's pretty much what we discussed tonight, some grant stuff, things like that. So
Right.
it'll just
So-
be pretty short.
You wanna bring up at the selectmen's meeting when we're gonna do it, and
Right.
the date and so on.
Right, because that ends up being public information. I mean, granted, it's, public's always invited to this sort of thing, but whenever we set just no dates are gonna get set in the work session. You know, I mean, it's like anything else, there may be an emergency that occurs between the time that the meeting ended and the time that we actually locked the door, but I doubt it. You know, I mean, you can usually plan ahead for stuff like that, so.
All right, I just think that we need more work sessions. No, maybe no, we don't need a
Well, and
whole
this is
night
the
of
other,
it.
I mean,
but-
with the fact that we're closing the we don't have a regular scheduled meeting the fourth Tuesdays a month. I mean, the reason I did it is I like the idea, it becomes impossible to take like a long weekend without not doing your job. What happened last summer where we, went through, 2-3 months where we just had a meeting every other week, I really didn't particularly like that idea. I mumbled during the vote, I should have said no, I think I abstained.
I kind of like that.
But, it affected, the pay scale was adjusted in reference to the fact that
Right.
we're cutting meetings by once a month, but I don't generally go anywhere on a Tuesday. I mean, I'm usually gonna be here that fourth Tuesday, and we could set up more things like this, where it's a longer period of time.
Well, you either set it up for the Tuesday that we're not meeting, or just set it up each week.
Yeah,
So
well, as
we've
I
got
said, yeah.
20 minutes after
Right.
the meeting
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
chat about
yeah, I think that's good.
what we want to do and
It needs to be done. Yeah. Yeah, all right, well, as I said, next week I'll have a calendar set up, I'll get the minutes done, and I'll get a little more information on the grant and stuff, and bring that in, okay?
okay, yeah. And if you can't get much on the grant, maybe we should have her in and.
Well, yeah, we can discuss that then, I'll just see what else is available out there. There may be somebody on the web that lists all the accomplishments of their firm or the person, how much grant money they raised last year. There might be somebody out there that puts that list out there, but as I said, this is just a first contact. So, good. Motion to adjourn?
Make it.
I'll second
All
it.
those in favor, say aye. All right. So that's 6:30, so an hour and a half.